Welcome to the POMcast with Steve Willis, your independent, unbiased, and unbought source for Ole Miss athletics. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to a new week, a new POMcast. It is LSU week, and like every other, we're going to assume that the game is going to happen until it doesn't. I believe the game at this point is going to happen because there's nothing going on our end. There is stuff going on LSU's end, but after last week, they probably feel pretty good about themselves and don't want to cancel. They want to play now, maybe, because they have a chance at a 500 record, which is where we are currently as well. We're 4-4. So if we win that game, we're looking at 5-4 in an all SEC season. That's hard to say rapidly. So I'm the host, Stephen Willis, right here on the POMcast and the Positivelyolemiss network. I am glad you are joining us. We have a little bit to get into today. We're going to talk about the basketball game that happened Saturday. Got a little stats, tell you who our stars of the game are and why. We are going to start looking at LSU. And we are going to do opening lines for the final week. That should be the plan for this week. So if you're out running, doing whatever you're doing, hopefully that floats the boat, so to speak. But if you would like to follow us, you can catch us on Twitter at the Stephen Willis and at Old Positively. Catch us on Facebook at facebook.com/POMcast. We are on YouTube at positivelyolemiss. Hit the bell for notifications. That'll help you when we start streaming. And, of course, you can catch us on Twitch at positivelyolemiss, all one word. If audio is more your thing, you can catch us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and Pandora. So, again, thank you for joining us. We have a really good show. This is the last week of the regular season, no matter what. So we've made it to this point, which is kind of impressive. Now, the world outside is slowly deteriorating, but we did make it to the last season. Ole Miss only missed one game, and between them and Texas A&M, they were probably the only two that will not get 10 in the regular season. Now, with the bowl game, they'll get their 10th game. Because at this point, they are both Texas A&M and Ole Miss is going to a bowl game. Probably, if they lose to LSU, the Liberty Bowl, if they win, they could go as high as the Outback Bowl. Something like that realm. Because you have Alabama going to the playoff. Texas A&M could possibly sneak in, depending on the results. They're sitting on the outside looking in. LSU is done, but LSU is going to go to a New Year's Six bowl game. So between the playoffs and the New Year's Six, you are probably looking at Alabama, Florida, and Texas A&M. Now, the Citrus Bowl is the next pick after that. That's going to be Georgia. So you have Georgia, Florida, Alabama, and Texas A&M taking the top two teams from either division. Now, from there, the next one will be Georgia, like I said. That's the Citrus Bowl. The one after that, they have the Outback Bowl. Used to be paired with the Cotton Bowl, but I don't know who it's paired with now. The Las Vegas Bowl got canceled. So Ole Miss should be ahead of Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, Tennessee, Kentucky, South Carolina. I'm trying to figure out if they can make it with the win at LSU, if they can make it up to the Outback Bowl. And it is possible. It is possible because we're looking at the 6th or 7th team. It just all matters if it goes Outback and then or Citrus and then Outback, or if Outback is kind of grouped together with 3 other bowls like the Belk Bowl and the Texas Bowl. And then the next tier is like the Music City and the Liberty and the Birmingham. So it's possible they could get up as high as the Outback Bowl. And the Gator Bowl is another one that's kind of in that tier. So, but more likely is things like the Gator, the Music City, the Texas, things like that. But either way, it's very interesting. And if anybody told you that Ole Miss would be sitting here besides me, because I called it, they're crazy. And I want to talk about this real quick before we go to break. We have a media that is so distrusted in this country, and this is why. They have been telling us for 2 years, based on their sources, I'll put air quotes around sources, because I told you that basically can mean made up. That can be deductive reasoning. That's just a catch-all word for several things. But if it's actually sources, you have to depend on them being correct. If they're wrong, you're wrong. So you don't go public with a chance that they could be wrong. But for 2 years, they told us Hugh Freeze would not coach in the SEC because of a banishment, basically. And they had sources to back that up. Now a lot of the same people are saying Hugh Freeze are going to go to South Carolina. Well, that didn't happen. Okay, Hugh Freeze is going to go to Auburn. Now, I say that to say this. This is all backed up by sources as well. And if Hugh Freeze gets a job in the conference 2 weeks after Ole Miss not being on probation anymore, literally the time of the probation took 3 weeks from the end, because December 1st we went off. There was never a banishment to begin with. And that's something you need to keep in mind, because they're going to use sources, and it's a way to try and sound like you know what you were talking about. It's something they use to get people to believe them. I have sources. In fact, I have many sources on that subject that say the same thing. See how that worked? But if Hugh Freeze comes back in the SEC, there was never any banishment, and anybody that claimed there was should be laughed out of whatever establishment they're in. Anyway, Steve Willis, POMcast. We're coming back for the basketball talk. Stick around.
Only 10% of us get enough daily exercise.
And that number is dropping.
Nearly 30% of us are overweight or obese.
We spend 6 hours a day in front of a screen. As a result, we now have a shorter life expectancy than our parents.
But give us the right start in sports, and we'll never stop.
Learn how at active4life.ca.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis from Positively Ole Miss. We're almost done with this break. We'll be back with good information quite soon.
The military has been in every generation of my family, and so has VA. It wasn't easy for my dad after Vietnam, but VA helped him and my mom get the home they'd always wanted. My grandpa's been coming to VA since World War II. They even helped him lay to rest one of his battle buddies from Normandy. And me, I followed in their footsteps and served with pride. And now that I'm out of the military, the GI Bill's helping me with school. Every generation of my family has served, and VA has served us all.
Welcome back to the POMcast. Saturday, Ole Miss beat UNC Wilmington 78-58. 78-58. And until the end where it got a little disheveled, and by disheveled, I mean it dropped below 20 points a couple of times. Ole Miss started fast. They won with defense. As the intensity dropped down, the scoreline for UNC Wilmington, just like Jackson State, went up. I mean, that happens. Ole Miss had 3 players in double figures, including Romello White at 20. He had 20 and 6 rebounds, 2 blocks. Luis Rodriguez, who played 30 minutes, had 14 points and 12 rebounds, a double-double, along with 4 assists. He had a heck of a day. And Devontae Shuler came in at 18 points. On 7 of 15 shooting, he was kind of cold outside the arc. He did have 6 assists, but he had 5 turnovers. He needs to work on that. So the star of the game, honestly, would probably be Luis Rodriguez, but Romello White and Devontae deserve a shout-out as well. It was just a game where Ole Miss defensively smothered the opponent, and they just worked their way out to a lead. So, as you know, after their long layoff, until this comes back, they're going to have to be defense-oriented. I mean, that's just the way this is going to have to work until they get going. And you saw flashes of the offense coming around. But it's like they used to say, defense travels. And the main thing, what they're saying right there is, like, if you're taught right and you have maximum effort, if you average giving up 59, you're probably going to give up 59. But the reality is, coming into the season, through 2 games, the 2 teams have scored a total of 30 points in the first half. That's 12 against Jackson State, 18 against Wilmington. That travels. When you're up 38-18 in halftime, there's not a whole lot of ways you can lose that game. Second half and went 40-40. Ended up 78-58. But, I mean, that's what we're looking at. They were a little bit cold behind the arc. They only shot like 25% from 3. But like the first game, the spark to wake up the offense was Romello White. He just had a whale of a game. And he's just fun to watch. He's so physically dominant. I want to see him against somebody that's a little bit closer. I just want to see if it travels. But he's so springy as well. The best player on the court, as far as the eye test, looked like Devontae Shuler again. But like we said, Luis Rodriguez with his double-double was probably the positively Ole Miss player of the game. So tonight, Ole Miss plays, let's see, who do they play? Central Arkansas at 8 o'clock tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central on the SEC Network. So it's a chance to continue the 4 games in 7 days. But it's a 3-game homestand, and then they travel to MTSU, and then they travel to Dayton. Dayton, I believe, beat Mississippi State this weekend in Starkville, which, I mean, honestly isn't saying too much. Yeah. So that is Ole Miss and basically Wilmington. Ole Miss wins 78-58. Sorry, I forgot about them for a second. And you just don't want to do that. And I am just so you know, looking up something on the internet as we speak. I'm getting into preview mode for Ole Miss versus LSU. which we'll get into lines in a little bit, but there was a sudden drop. But the leading passer for LSU is still Miles Brennan. It seems like he played 2 games. That's kind of funny. Max Johnson will be the starting quarterback for LSU. I mean, he looked fairly good against Kentucky. Matt Corral is the leader at Ole Miss. He's thrown for 27-44, 24 touchdowns, 9 picks, 6 of them in one game. He's had an impressive year minus that one game. Jerry Neely has 701 yards, and Elijah Moore, of course, has 86 catches for 1,193 yards. The leaders for LSU on the list, their passing leader is Miles Brennan, who's not playing. Their receiving leader is Terrence Marshall, that's right, not playing. They do have, what's his name, Tyrion Davis-Price, averaging about 4 yards a carry at 446 for the season. Points per game, Ole Miss is averaging 39.8, almost 40. LSU's averaging 29.7, almost 30. Points allowed per game, Ole Miss is averaging 38.8, almost 39. And LSU is averaging 33.4. Ole Miss is third in the country and leading the SEC in total offense at 563 yards. LSU's up around 416. As far as yards allowed, Ole Miss is giving up 528.5, and LSU is giving up 484.7. Passing yards allowed, Ole Miss is giving up 310. LSU is giving up 331. Something to keep an eye on. Rushing yards allowed, Ole Miss is giving up 217. LSU is giving up 153. They started slanting a whole bunch. So that's something to keep an eye on. The pick center on ESPN is kind of interesting. Team rankings has it at 36.9 to 35.5 LSU winning. Number Fire has it at 41.3 to 39.9 Ole Miss winning. So, I mean, we'll see about that. And let's see. LSU gave up 48 to Auburn, 55 to Alabama. They did only give up 20 to Texas A&M. They seem to do a real good job playing against what I would consider old man football. They beat South Carolina early in the year. They played well against Texas A&M. But they really struggle against tempo and the true spread. And that is a little bit of a problem. Alabama has such weapons, it's just ridiculous. But giving up 55 points in a game, and Alabama could have scored 80 that night. So that's something to look. We match up with LSU pretty well. What we do offensively is not designed for what they can stop defensively. Now, here's what I mean by that. You have a whole bunch of defensive personnel built for Dave Aranda's system. Dave Aranda and Bo Pelini are miles apart on the players needed to run said system. This isn't a Bo Pelini problem. Everybody's making fun of Bo Pelini. No, they have athletes that, just like us, in a way, they're designed to go A-gap to B-gap. And now you're asking them to go sideline to sideline, and they just can't make it. You got big plugging nose guard. You got defensive line personnel that is 3-4 centric, not 4-3 centric. You want a nose guard that's 290 and can run in the 4-3. You want a nose guard that's 320 and hard to move that can 2-gap in a 3-4. That's what I'm talking about. So it's same personnel that's been recruiting. Now they might have been 5-star players in Dave Aranda's system. Those type players, they're good players. I mean, Derek Stingley is out there playing cornerback on a defense that's last in the SEC against the pass. I mean, and the reason it is because they can't get pressure at all. So now they're trying to basically manipulate pressure. So if you know what's going on and you can get them expanded, you have a chance to just score at will against these guys because they're being asked to do stuff they can't do. And that has been their problem all year long. One of these days, coaches are going to realize when it comes to system changes that they can get you fired. I think we just saw Gus Malzahn go through the same thing. The exact almost same thing with Chad Morris on offense. You turn that over, and now Gus Malzahn just got fired. And there's a whole bunch of people that is running college football that don't understand basic football. All they know is, did we win? Okay. No? Okay, it's the coach's fault. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Now, the coach hiring and making that personnel shift, yes, he owns that. Matt Luke going to the Rich Rodriguez system after being in the air raid and being us being a passing team for 8 years, and we struggled a little bit throwing the ball. Yeah, it's Matt Luke. He owns that. Anyway, POMcast Season 3, Lions coming up next. Stick around.
You want to answer that, don't you? I bet it's just killing you seeing the soft glow just inches away. Someone wants to tell you something or ask you something. Oh, come on, answer it already! Just so we're clear, that wasn't my fault. Next time, ignore your inner voice. Don't text and drive. A message from Florida's trusted choice independent insurance agents.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis. I just want you to stick around a little longer. We're going to get back to the podcast right after these messages.
Tonight, nearly 40,000 veterans across the country are homeless. These men and women have pledged to serve our nation, and now we must serve them. Landlords across the country have helped make significant progress in reducing veteran homelessness by making housing available, but there is more that we can do to bring our veterans home. Visit www.va.gov/homeless to see how you can get involved. And if you are a veteran and you are experiencing homelessness, please call 877-4AID-VET. Thank you.
Welcome back to the POMcast. Hope you're having a great day. I'm having a great day. So if I'm having a great day, I hope you are as well, because it's fantastic. I woke up, it was 67 degrees and sunny. It was just perfect. It was just great. They're talking about a little bit of rain today, but this weekend highs have been in the low 80s. Lows have been in the 60s. It's pretty nice. I haven't cut the heater on since we had a cold snap come through where temperatures got into the 40s. I did put the heater on for that. But heater, air conditioner, I pretty much just haven't used them. It was pretty great. And everybody's like, well, okay, it's going to be great, but would it wait until the summer? It's like, yeah, I'm from South Mississippi. The summers there are terrible as well. All I'm giving up is the winter, because the summers are terrible no matter where you live. And all those places have air conditioning. And that is allowed, I'm fairly certain. But anyway, let's get into lines this weekend. Then last weekend of college football, 5 games on the SEC slate, including Tennessee getting 12 points against Texas A&M. So it's Texas A&M favored by 12 at Tennessee. Vanderbilt getting 37.5 points against Georgia. I don't know if any team is 37.5 points better minus Alabama. I would have probably laid that line with Alabama, but I don't trust Georgia to be able to just go. Everybody is really impressed about Missouri, but they play extremely slow. They need to incorporate tempo if they are going to be successful at a high level, because you have all these athletes, deal with the other team making MAs and let your horses run. Missouri is favored by 1.5 at Mississippi State. That'll be interesting. Elijah Drinkwitz is, in my opinion, the SEC Coach of the Year. And I like what they're doing offensively. I like what Mississippi State is doing defensively, honestly. But it should be interesting to see that. Missouri's defense is better than Mississippi State's offense. Ole Miss getting 1.5 points at LSU. That line opened at 4 points and almost immediately dropped down to 1.5. Ton of money coming in on the Rebs. Now it's basically a pick 'em in Tiger Stadium. Should be a fun game. And finally, the SEC championship game, Alabama is favored by 17. Let me say that again. In the SEC championship game, Alabama is favored by 17 against Florida. Game's being played in Atlanta. The only, Florida's already played a neutral site game this year. But we haven't really talked about it, but Florida literally throwing away a shot at the playoff is beyond the weirdest loss I have ever seen. I was at the immaculate deflection. 4th and 25, saw it. On TV last year, saw the Elijah Moore fake P thing. All that compared to Shoegate, it's pretty weak sauce. It's the weirdest way I've seen a team lose. I also joked about on Twitter they should call it the LSU game. Get it? LSU. But ripping a shoe off a foot and throwing it 30 yards downfield, it makes no sense. There's no need to do it. And you think about it, that was like on 3rd and 8. LSU was about to punt the ball to your Heisman Trophy candidate quarterback to go down and kick a field goal with just under 2 minutes on the clock. Instead, you get an unsportsmanlike penalty for doing that because you ripped off somebody's shoe and threw it down the field. LSU went down and made a 57-yard field goal that won the game. I mean, you deserve to lose that game, Florida. You deserve your playoff hopes to go down the toilet. Yeah, I mean, you deserve all of that because that was the most insane thing I've ever seen in my entire life in college football. And I've seen a lot of football in my days. But that just takes the cake. Now, I mean, what were you even thinking? I'm trying to picture what was going on mentally inside your brain that you would think that would be a good idea, or you think you would be able to get away with that. I mean, it's almost like you did it on purpose. And I get the normal excuses, the red mist, yada, yada, yada. You saw red, took over your common sense. It just doesn't make any sense. But anyway, LSU got the win, went to 4-5, winning on the road against a top 5 team. I mean, this could be interesting. But they do have a different animal coming into Tiger Stadium this weekend. and that different angle does not have crowd noise. So it's something to keep an eye on. But this is day one. This is Monday of Ole Miss LSU week. We're going to proceed like it's happening until we hear it's not. And if it doesn't, I guess we're going to become a basketball podcast. Also, just a little note, the week of right before Christmas and the week after Christmas, there will be no POMcast. Just because of the move and everything logistically that we're doing. Anyway, I'll see you tomorrow on POMcast. Stephen Willis, thanks a lot. Hotty toddy.